And welcome back to the broadcast. Collins Bore, an analyst, is joining me this morning so we can take a look at what is on the newspaper. Collins, good morning.
Good morning to you, Linda.
All right, and good to have you as we go straight to the papers. Let's start with the Daily Nation. We also have the People Daily and the Standard newspaper front page of the Daily Nation. And one of the biggest stories on the front page, or captured on the front page, Rift Valley counties to get more members of parliament in June referendum, or if June referendum is passed, and the Rift Valley will be the biggest beneficiary of the extra 70 special seats to be created in the National Assembly should the Building Bridges initiative sail through. Already, with 76 seats in the House, the region is poised to get an extra 19 in the proposed constitutional changes, which will increase its tally to 95 seats, nearly a third of the House membership. And this number is critical and crucial to influence the appointment of a Prime Minister should the Constitution be amended. A story captured on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Also, Central is likely to get a lot of numbers in regards to the same. And the conversation of the BBI is what we'll be having later on. But I'd love to hear the reservations of Collins in regards to the same. Collins.
Thank you very much. I think the BBI report we are able to look at what is inside, and one of the proposals that brought about is the issue of adding more parliamentary seats in areas that are considered to be underrepresented. So I feel that indeed there are areas that are overpopulated, and we have had underrepresentation in such kind of areas, and this is what BBI seeks to come in place so that they are able to have proper representation in such kind of areas. And this, for me, is a good proposal. There are also issues of adding these seats in a bid to also cater for the people with disabilities, and also to try and also look at the gender bit of it. Therefore, we are going to have more seats being added so that we can be able to deal with those issues that have been in the past being a challenge to this country, and so that at least we can have more representation in our National Assembly and in the Senate.
All right, and like I have said, later on the broadcast we'll be discussing the grid for inclusivity that is there. Different sectors coming out to say that they need to have their needs or their interests represented within the BBI, but sadly this is likely not to play out if they decide to go by it, or with the document having not being amended or many changes being done on the same. We drop that one and we take a look at another story. This is actually the biggest story that has been captured on the front page of the Daily Nation. Paul violence, his allies have alleged scheme to revive Hague cases. Now here comes ICC trouble for DP Ruto. Yes, it's being looked at as it is trouble for DP Ruto. Accuses of corrupting witnesses to withdraw from testifying in one of the cases, presented himself to Dutch authorities, and he asked to surrender to the Hague. He was asked to surrender to the Hague, which has a warrant out of him, and it raised all manner of possibilities. Some of them, first, it might mean exactly nothing. He has nothing to trade, and he's merely putting his affairs in order. Or secondly, it may be that he has come to do a deal and turn on his elsewise friends, a principal, among them the DP. This is a story that has been captured on page 7. Indeed, Shoka yesterday also to speak whether this is going to come in her victims of the post-election violence finally get justice or not is a question of wait and see. But it looks like it's going to take a different twist, or it's going to bring a different twist on the case.
Really, these are the ghosts of the ICC that we are now talking about, that the warrant of arrest was issued 5 years ago, and Paul Gisheru has, gone to the ICC to put his case forward. We don't know whether he is going to present new evidence, because if that happens, then there could be a fresh confirmation of charges against the deputy president and also the Stephen Sang. So we are not really new evidence that is going to be provided by Paul Gisheru, but that if that is provided, then we may see fresh, confirmation of charges against the two happening, so that again we are back to the process of ICC, which as a country I think we have said that it is time that we also tried to empower our judicial system so that we have people tried in our own country rather than having to go to the International Criminal Court, because we have seen what has happened in the past, and we would rather have them prosecuted here so that we avoid all these other processes that we have had to go as a country. But again, it is also important to note that the rights of the victims who underwent the post-election violence, most of them have been watching, and they felt that at first justice was not delivered. So maybe to them, this could be an opportunity for justice to be served, so that those cases can be revisited, because there are those who feel that the cases might have ended prematurely without, prosecutions. Probably there was no evidence that has been presented as at that time. So we are likely to see another conversation happening on the ICC cases. And again, lastly, to put in, I think this may also inform the 2022 general elections, because in this country, we have always known that such kind of things are what lead to the conversation that happens towards the 2022 politics. So we are likely to see politics coming into play as far as the ICC questions are concerned, because there are those who want politics in it.
All right, and as it has been the case, the ICC has constantly been accused of being biased, especially when dealing with African cases, and the likes of Trump have questioned the credibility of the ICC. And yes, today America goes for an election. I don't want to say it's a D-Day. It's a long process before the electioneering period is done, but he seeks to get his second term as president of the United States. What do you make of this? Have you been following up on the stories and the campaign trails that have been ongoing?
Yes, really, I think America is going to make a key decision in as far as the elections are concerned. And the conversation mostly has been around how Trump has been able to deal with the COVID-19 situation in the United States. And if you look at the routers right now, you realize that Biden is projected to have a higher percentage than Trump. As at now, we are talking about 51% for Joe Biden, and we have around 40 something for Trump. So although it's still early to call, remember what happened in the last election, that Hillary Clinton led in, but when it came to the states, you realize that Trump carried the day. So there are those electoral colleges that are going to be key determinants in as far as the winner in this election is concerned. And I think that is what Joe Biden together with Trump are trying to do, because we have electoral colleges that will carry more votes compared to others. So those are the states that they are focusing a lot more. And in the next few days, we are going to see the results, and it's a tight race, if you ask me. And Trump, I know, is a tall order for him, because of course he'll be judged with how he has been able to run the country for the past 4 years. So we are going to see all these happening, and we expect to have the results in the few days coming.
All right, we'll be keeping you up to tabs in regards to the same. Also, we take a look at what is happening in Uganda in terms of presentation of papers and also nomination processes that are ongoing as they prepare for the election in 2021. Tanzania the other day cleared its elections, of course, marred with a lot of allegations of insincerity and also that aspects of the process not being free and fair. We keep you up to tabs in regards to the developments of the same as we proceed later on our subsequent broadcast. Now, away from that, and another story, how political rallies fuel COVID-19 surge. The numbers are high. This even as President Uhuru Kenyatta is set to lead talks on whether we're going to have, the total reopening of schools, and also different sectors at this time when the numbers continue to go up. 733 new COVID-19 cases were registered as of yesterday, and deaths actually in 10 days, which is something that is pretty much wanting and scaring for that matter. What do you make of this?
Yes, indeed. In the past few days, we have seen the COVID-19 cases rise in a very worrying manner. And we had the CS Health yesterday caution Kenyans that it's time that they took the regulations that had been given before seriously, so that we're able to, deal with this pandemic. But as at now, you realize that the cases they keep rising every now and then. And the the conference that is to happen tomorrow is to look at some of these areas so that we see how Kenyans can be cautioned and how Kenyans can be reminded that the COVID-19 situation is all about personal responsibility. Because the government has also, in my view, a little bit relaxed in as far as enforcement of these measures are concerned. Political rallies are going on in this country, and sorry to say, they are being led by those people who are in these high offices. We had the BBI processes kicking off in Kisii, in Kisumu, and the former prime minister was there. We have had the deputy president traverse this country for a very long time. We have had also other politicians like the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, we have Alfred Mutu, and all those politicians who have been in the lead in, breaking the laws that they have given to us. So if they led by example, I'm sure Kenyans could also follow, because if they continue with what they do, then Kenyans are likely to see that, to see as though coronavirus may not be in existence, which is something that is very worrying, because these cases will continue. We have seen deaths for the first time this week. We have had almost 100 deaths reported. So that is very worrying for us as a country, and therefore a conversation needs to happen on see how we are able to do that. And probably the president may even consider, locking the country up again so that people can be able to deal with this situation, so that at last we can be able to be victorious and go back to our normal things that we have been doing as a country.
All right, that brings us to the People Daily, and still on the very same note, indeed, a delicate balance for President Uhuru Kenyatta. Story captured on page 4 and 5 of the People Daily. Lockdown dilemma facing the president as health CS hints at tougher measures ahead of meeting. But will the economy be shut down is the question that we asked, or that is being asked this morning, even as we stand at 56,601 cases so far, out of a total of 705,000 people who've been tested, and the recovered cases, or the recovered ones, are 37,442, while we have recorded 1,027 deaths as of now since the time that we recorded the first case. This takes us to page 2 of the People Daily, where of course we discuss matters health, and there's a story here. A woman representative says that universal health care or universal health coverage will help the poor. This is woman rep Machakos County, and at a point where we have medics downing their tools over delayed promotions and also decrying tough times or tough operations within the facilities, on how, at this point they're dealing with COVID-19 and generally all these other cases or health cases that are presented to them. Striking health workers have accused the ministry and its top brass of dragging feet in regard to their pledges, and they officially declared that they're going to start their strike as of midnight.
That's really sad. As a country, we are in the middle of the coronavirus again, and strikes are going to happen. But let me first speak from where you left. You're talking about the universal healthcare, which has been a conversation that has happened. If you look at the 4 pillars of the Big Four agenda by the president, one of them is health, and we are talking about universal healthcare. Over the weekend, the president was in Mombasa, launching some of these things, and we want to see effect. We want to see things being done. Let's not just launch projects and we don't see that happening, because I remember there was a piloting program that was done for the universal healthcare in counties, but that did not happen in other areas. So we would like to see the government being sincere in its quest to ensure that there is universal healthcare for all people, because health is very important. If you look at the coronavirus, for instance, the situations that we have had in this country, poor Kenyans who cannot access health facilities have had to suffer. Some of them have had to, remain at home, and they end up passing away and also infecting other people because they cannot access these health services. So it is a conversation that the government needs to pick up and needs to implement the universal health care. Then on the issue of the health workers, I also feel that it is important for them at this moment to realize that the country people, to show their patriotism and ensure that they shelve their interest as at now I know there could be complaints that there are very many health workers who have been infected, but I think this is the sacrifice that we were talking about initially, that this is a time to sacrifice, this is a time to help each other as the people of this country, so that we are able to win this war together. Then from there, we can then have a conversation on how their needs and interests can be catered for.
All right, well, that is still on Matters Health, and so much is ongoing. Of course, you can always grab your copy and get to see what is happening. But okay, well, a rather sad story right here, which is something that is now becoming more of a trend. Crimes of passion, especially at this time of COVID-19, they've been registered to be so much. And this is even worse because it is happening, amongst, people who are not even married. They are just in relationships. And lawyer is now hospitalized after being stabbed by girlfriend. A Nairobi lawyer is admitted at a city hospital after he was stabbed by his girlfriend in Umoja. That is yesterday morning after or over a text. I mean, this is common. Just the other day, we also had this conversation, and one of a very brilliant lawyer lost his life because of this. It is pretty much unfortunate, but don't you think we should have a conversation revolving around the same?
Indeed, we should. I mean, the gender-based violence has been in existence for quite some time, and it's very unfortunate that it is happening at this particular time also, that people can go to that extent of killing and stabbing the other person. It's a very unfortunate. And I think we need to also have a wider conversation on it, because in the past, anytime we talk about gender-based violence, we only think that it is meted out on women. I think it's now happening to also men, and that is a conversation that needs to peak, because I realize that in this country we have focused a lot more on gender-based violence, only on women, but we have failed to look at violence that is being meted out on men. And that is what is happening in other countries, and we shy away from talking about it in this country. I know in the past we have been kind of a male-dominated community, but as we speak right now, we are having a balanced kind of gender conversation, and therefore we need to also look at how we can handle gender-based violence from the men's perspective, instead of only looking at it as a women affair. But then at the end of the day, the lives of every Kenyan is important. The life of every Kenyan is important, and it cannot be taken for granted. And I think these are cases that should be handled very fast, so that they send a signal to others who may want to do the same, that it is the worst kind of a sin that you can ever do, because the life of every Kenyan is important. And no amount of heartbreaks, if I may put it so, can make someone end up killing the other person. It's really unfortunate, and I don't think this is something that should be happening. People can handle issues that they may have over simple things such as text, talking and sitting together. And if somebody feels as though they are not, their needs are not catered for, I mean, you can just walk away and start over again.
All right. Well, and speaking of the life of every other Kenyan being important, a story here on page 7 of the People Daily. Lobby patients to sue state over shortage of ARVs. A Mombasa non-governmental organization alongside HIV and AIDS patients have threatened to sue the government in the Ministry of Health over the failure to supply them with antiretrovirus drugs or antiretroviral drugs. And the doctors are, of course, attached to public hospitals in Mombasa, argue or attribute the shortage to government delays in clearing imported consignments and delays by supplies to meet delivery timelines. This is pretty much unfortunate, a report.
Yes, it's very. We have people who are going through the HIV/AIDS and all that, and they need to be taking their medicine every now and then, the ARVs and all that. And I think it's they have every right to sue, because if their needs are not catered for, they make suffer in the midst of all this COVID-19, because you realize that also they are at a higher risk of contracting this virus, and if they do, then they are at higher risk of also, being ravaged by it, and therefore it is something that needs to be done. I think the clearance needs to happen very fast, so that the consignments can come to the country and they're able to access their medical needs, and they're able to continue with their life as usual without having to, wait for that longer period.
And before we take a look at what is on the cartoon edition, let's first of all see what is captured on the front page of the Standard newspaper. Revealed plan to recall more learners to school. Other students may be recalled to resume classes early as next week as the government implements its phased reopening plan despite surging COVID-19 cases. I know we've spoken about this, but really this aspect of education is a little bit of, crucial, and, it's getting most of the people into that aspect. I mean, just what next, and would it be wise for them to have the students go back to school?
In my view, it's not wise to have the entire reopening happen at this time. Look at the cases that we have had in the past. Already we have coronavirus in our schools. Some principals, we are talking about teachers who have been infected, we are talking about students, and we only have a small population in school. So what will happen when we have the entire students come back to school? We are likely to have a surge in the cases. We are likely to see more students and teachers being infected. And therefore, as at the moment, that's a conversation that shouldn't be happening, because we should be focused on dealing with the COVID-19 situation in the country. We are into the second wave, if what the experts say is anything to go by. And therefore, if we are continuing to rise, then we cannot even think of having students back to school, all of them. And let's deal with the ones who are there. And if the situation worsens, they might even have to close up the schools and have the phone calls go back, and the class 8 and the grade 4, because we cannot risk the life of students. And therefore, in my view, it's not a conversation that will be happening at the moment. We should be focused on fighting the COVID first.
All right, well, let's take a look at what is on the cartoons, and it's important because sometimes, well, as rhetoric as they may be, or comical they may be, they speak volumes about the situations. Of course, that one on the Daily Nation is about the United States. I will declare myself the winner. Well, and this is the Joker card. If you can see that, what do you make of this cartoon edition? Sorry.
Unfortunately, Linda, I think I cannot see that, but I think it's talking about it's
about Trump,
the elections in the US.
Yes? I'm listening to you.
Yes, no, Linda, I'm saying I cannot see the cartoon itself, but I think it's talking about Trump and the elections and how he's going to declare winner. I mean, I cannot be able to do that at the moment. I cannot see that.
Well, all right. Well, in that case, then it means you're not even able to see this one. Well, it is projected on screen. That is there on the People Daily. It's all about the BBI and COVID-19 safety measures and how much we've run away from that. And, it's more like we have thrown that away, and we're not focusing much on dealing with COVID-19. And if you realize, this aspect of the surge of numbers has been highly attributed to the laxity that we witness with the people today, even worse, the political leaders who are always out here, on trail mode, campaign trail modes, or even talking matters politics left, right, and center, overlooking the measures that have been set on board, actually the measures that they have set themselves in regard to COVID-19. And also they are out there talking about BBI. I would want to ask you this. Do you suppose then that it will be almost impossible for the president to even think of declaring another lockdown, looking at the scenario and the timelines that he has or they have with the BBI, and publicizing it to the people and also having it sailed through by the time it is June as declared?
I think it's a catch-22 for the president, because he finds himself in unfamiliar territory. He doesn't know whether to lock down the country, and we have the BBI process. So already the matrix of the implementation of it is already out there. The timelines have been provided on what should be the collection of signatures. Of course, you realize that the collection of signatures will have to involve people. We also have popularization. We have governors, we have members of parliament who have been instructed to ensure that they go out there to their constituencies and popularize these particular documents. So again, that popularizing will be about bringing people together, and we are going to have youth crowds that we have witnessed before. And also we'll have campaigns being heightened, because I'm looking at a scenario where we have the yes versus no, and we have the referendum happening later on next year. So I think it is going to be a dilemma for president, because he's wondering whether we lock the country and have to shelve the BBI debate a little bit, But I think with the timelines that he has, he might have to play it safe and to say that, of course, probably the things will continue as they are, but we have strict adherence so that if people turn up for rallies, they do that obeying the social distancing principle, wearing their masks and all that. So, I mean, we can only wait to see what the president will say, but we can also preempt because he is an interested party in as far as the BBI debate is concerned, and probably he knows that he has to popularize it. So it's going to be a scenario that we want to look at tomorrow.
All right, and still the edition paints a picture of a CS who, you know, will always hold press briefings, but then again, clearly looks like he is talking to himself, or like it says, the CS who talks alone. Pretty much unfortunate. Let's go back to the Daily Nation and take a look at what is happening at the counties, and we start off with Nairobi. I mean, the tussle is still on between the general and Governor Mike Sonko, and Nairobi NMS boss body has rubbished a purported waiver of rent for tenants. Fate of tenants in limbo as Sonko body tussle on rent. This is over a week ago. Sonko waived rent to caution city residents amid the pandemic, and there's still been this, so to speak, power tussle between the two. I mean, just how well will the county be able to function if we continue witnessing this?
It's really unfortunate that the tussle still continues even at this particular time, because the Nairobi residents need development. They need to be assured of their needs being catered for by the government that they voted for. And I'm sure the person that they will hold accountable is Governor Mike Sonko first, because that is the person they elected. Then the NMS boss will also focus on the administrative, work that was given to him through the agreement that they had with Governor Sonko, so that there is no that tussle. Because if they have clearly laid down, roles and responsibilities that they are supposed to play, then we shouldn't be having this kind of tussle and differences arising. Because if this continues, then we are likely to see a scenario where Nairobi County is going to be underdeveloped, and yet it is the county in this country that provides almost, we are talking of 60% of the GDP of this country. So we cannot afford to take it down the drain. It is important that they set aside their differences. And I'm sure the president, who is the uniting factor and the unifying factor for this matter, can bring these two together as he has done before, and to think, look, your responsibilities are these, the responsibilities of the governor are this, so that there is no that collision that has been witnessed before, because Nairobi needs development and we cannot keep going, because this has all of a sudden deteriorated into, personal differences that we have had. These people cannot even see eye to eye. So it's important that they settle the differences so that Nairobi can move forward and have development like any other county in this country.
All right, Collins Bore, and of course what is happening on the global scene, more or less the stories that we also captured on, that is the United States presidential race and the Tanzanian one, as opposition leader Lissu was arrested and later on, of course, freed. There's so much so that is taking center stage. You can always grab a copy of the papers there and you get to be updated. Thank you so much, Collins Bore, once again. That's where we get to wind up the newspaper review segment as we cross over to a different segment altogether. Remember, we'll be discussing so much so, and we'd love that you're part and parcel of this conversation. So after this break, I'll loop you in as we proceed.